From birth, the path we must follow is all laid out. We must follow rules, be respectful as well as useful. What's more, we are stimulated in a way that leads us to develop the most logical part of our brain. And as if all this weren't enough, we are taught to believe that rational arguments are much more important than emotional ones. So it's not difficult to guess why emotions have always been seen as unnecessary interruptions to our thought processes, aims, goals, and even our objectivity. Whether you like it or not, there isn't a single thing not influenced by emotions. 1,000,000 years ago, the brains of the first human beings were stimulated by survival instincts. We had brains capable of showing us when we should be scared or not, where to look for food and where not to, when to overpower others and when not to, all with the goal of surviving. This is known as the reptilian brain, the human at his most basic level. After some time, and through evolution, the brain developed so it would function on instinct and work by listening to emotions. To be more precise and a little more technical, the limbic system then began developing around our primitive brain. This progress led to the appearance of emotions and memory, and from this moment onwards, our behavior began to be marked by positive or negative feelings. Finally, we've reached the last step, a rational brain with intellectual thoughts. It was an evolutionary jump that gave birth to spoken language, abstract thinking, and the conscience. Without a doubt, this was what allowed us to take our place at the top of the food chain, where we are today. It's important to remember, however, that the impact of our emotional processes involves all of our brain, because emotional paths cross those of rational thinking, making emotions impact upon everything we do, including the rational. Everything is connected. But that's not all. Emotions also work as a primary communication tool. An obvious example is the baby that smiles at its mother for the first time as a sign of interaction, and cries as a sign of discomfort. These are the first emotional responses in life, and they are soon joined by others to become the most universal language of them all, that of the emotions. Emotions are not only a language, they are also the signals that give us information about what's happening around us. They tell us if everything is okay or not, and what we need to do if we want to change something. As such, our emotional reactions are essential to our ability to adapt to a given situation. By understanding our emotions, we can find genuine solutions quicker, which is fundamental to our well-being. Now the question is, why don't we learn from everything that our emotions teach us in life? We pay no heed to our emotions because they act unconsciously. 95% of everything that our brain takes in, including emotions, goes directly to a part called implicit memory. This implicit memory is present in everything we do, all the time. Okay, so emotions influence us on a subconscious level. But what does this mean on a day-to-day level? How does this influence our behavior and decision-making? What role do emotions play in all of this? Let's go through this slowly, part by part. There's no doubt that emotions play an important role. In our day-to-day lives, our mood and the emotions we feel influence our judgment and our perception of reality, driving the decisions and choices we make. Speaking of decisions, think about some of the most recent decisions that you have taken. Not important ones. We're talking about choosing an ice cream flavor or the color of your trousers. After this rational process, often you feel like there is something that doesn't quite add up, something you can't explain that makes you take one decision over another less rational one. We let ourselves be carried by this voice that we don't understand, but when we listen to it and follow it, we feel a sense of vindication for having done so. With the aim of proving this, Damasio, a revolutionary Portuguese-American neuroscientist, carried out a study with people who had sustained damage to the part of the brain that generates emotions. He discovered that they were normal, apart from the fact that they could not feel emotions. But all of them had something in common. They could not take decisions, not even from a logical viewpoint, simple or not. Coffee or tea, jeans or a skirt. Decisions all have pros and cons, but without an emotional way of deciding, these people are incapable of arriving at a decision. So do emotions also influence our decisions when shopping? Do they make a difference as to how much people value brands and products when making their decisions? Well, first let's try to put ourselves into the position of the people out there. For example, in Germany there are more than 50,000 brands, all publicizing themselves every day. The corner shops offer around 10,000 items, and 26,000 new products enter the market each year. Such a huge choice of products, which as we know can all be very similar on a functional level, has made the level of involvement drop very low. But before continuing, we want to be very clear. Money has a great emotional value for us humans, because all our work and efforts end up as a paper bill. It is a representation of everything we had to overcome in order to have this money. And to exchange this emotional money for a product, the product has to offer a value equal to or greater than the bill I have in my pocket. In truth, people pay for the emotion that the product produces in them, not for its function alone. And so by increasing the emotional value of a brand, we are increasing the possibility that consumers will pay more for it. Almost 85% of purchases are emotional decisions. In a recent study by Murdoch University's Audience Labs and the University of Wollongong about emotional branding, it was discovered that men who fall in love with their beer brand buy 38% more than the average man, while women who feel an affinity for their detergent brand buy 60% more than the average consumer. They concluded, therefore, that consumers emotionally linked to a brand buy more than normal clients.
Brands that have an emotional value create preference in people's minds, and this preference will actually lead to purchase. So the more emotional a brand is, the more emotion invested in the brand, the more powerful the brand becomes. And the more we speak to people's hearts, the more we will connect with them and really reach them. So understanding people's emotions, understanding what moves them, what touches them, what worries them, it makes it much more easier to actually talk to their heart and connect with them. And the more fluent we become in the language of emotions, the deeper and better we will connect with them.
So guess who's good at talking to the heart?